What if the most dangerous thing for an army isn't enemy missiles, isn't tanks, isn't artillery? What if it's something invisible, something that cannot be manufactured, cannot be imported, and cannot simply be ordered into existence? The willingness to keep fighting. Because history shows, armies rarely collapse. When they run out of weapons, many begin to break. When enough soldiers stop believing that the next attack is worth the cost. And according to multiple reports, something like that may be unfolding inside Russia's war effort right now. Not everywhere, not all at once, but enough to raise difficult questions. Questions about morale, questions about recruitment, and questions about how long modern armies can sustain extremely high minus-intensity warfare. When Russia launched its full minus-scale invasion, the assumption seemed straightforward. Russia had money, a large population, and a powerful state apparatus. Higher salaries appeared. Signing bonuses increased. Recruitment campaigns expanded. For many people, especially in economically struggling regions, the offers were difficult to ignore. At first, the system continued functioning. New contracts were signed. Volunteers arrived. Prison recruitment programs expanded. The manpower machine kept moving. The prolonged wars create a problem that money alone cannot solve. Experience, because soldiers who survive combat return with stories. Stories about drones, about artillery, about life in trenches, about uncertainty. And in every war, those stories travel faster than official narratives. This war looks very different from what many militaries prepared for. There's almost always an eye in the sky. Commercial drones, reconnaissance drones, loitering munitions. Suddenly, small movements matter. A vehicle, a radio transmission, a group of soldiers crossing open ground. Everything can be seen. Everything can be targeted. The battlefield has become transparent, and transparent battlefields create extraordinary psychological pressure, because uncertainty never ends. There is no obvious front line, no guaranteed safe area. Even rest can become temporary. This doesn't automatically break an army, but over time, it can reshape morale. And morale is one of the most important resources in modern warfare. This is where the story becomes even more remarkable. According to Ukrainian officials, thousands of inquiries have been received through programs designed to facilitate surrender. Some requests reportedly came from frontline positions. Others allegedly originated far away from active combat zones. The details of individual cases remain difficult to independently verify, but the broader trend has attracted enormous attention because it raises a fascinating question. What happens when soldiers begin exploring ways out before they even enter battle? That doesn't necessarily mean an entire army is collapsing. Wars are far more complicated than that, but it may suggest something important. The psychological costs of prolonged warfare are becoming increasingly difficult to ignore. Most people imagine war as soldiers fighting soldiers, but modern conflicts increasingly depend on systems, communications, intelligence, medical evacuation, supply networks. The fighter miles often become the hardest. Moving food, water, ammunition, replacements. Every disruption matters, because once information and logistics slow down, pressure accumulates everywhere. At headquarters, inside units, and most importantly, inside the minds of soldiers, who begin wondering whether help is actually coming. Modern warfare is not only a contest of firepower, it is also a contest of endurance. This is also where we need balance. Russia still possesses significant advantages: a large population, substantial industrial capacity, and the ability to continue generating new contracts. Ukraine also faces enormous pressures: rotation challenges, manpower shortages, long periods of combat fatigue, and prolonged wars. Morale erosion is rarely one-sided. Every army faces it. Every society feels it, which makes the real question far more interesting. Not who is exhausted, but which side can manage exhaustion more effectively, because modern wars are increasingly becoming wars of sustainability. Can you replace losses? Can you maintain logistics? Can you preserve morale? Can you convince enough people that continuing the fight still makes sense? These questions are not answered by tanks, or missiles, or military parades. They are answered slowly, month after month, through recruitment numbers, through unit performance, and through the decisions made by ordinary soldiers. History is full of armies that possessed enormous firepower. Some still struggled, because military strength is never just hardware. It is organization, logistics, leadership, and perhaps most importantly, belief. The belief that the next mission matters, that sacrifice has meaning, that victory remains possible. Once those beliefs begin to weaken, even the strongest institutions can face difficult challenges. So perhaps the biggest question in this war isn't who has more weapons, or who can build more drones. The deeper question may be this: in an age of constant surveillance, high-minus intensity combat, and endless attrition, how long can any modern army sustain the human willingness to keep fighting? Let me know what you think, because the future of warfare may depend less on machines, and more on whether people still choose to carry them.